Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein have only played 11 games together so far this season, and in those 11 games, they've only been on the floor together for 383 total possessions. With those two on the floor together, the Thunder are clocking a 125.8 offensive rating while holding their opponents to 112.3 points per 100 possessions, giving this two-man lineup a net rating of plus 13.6. I want to dive into how the Oklahoma City Thunder have been unlocking the potential of this lineup, why it's been able to be so effective specifically on the offensive end, and why it still probably hasn't been optimized to its fullest potential yet. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now, first off, one of the biggest advantages that the Thunder get from this two-man lineup is allowing Chet to be able to just operate as a floor spacer and a play finisher, something that he's very good at. So on this play, Shai and Isaiah Hartenstein are going to get into this side pick and roll. This side of the floor is pretty much cleared out, and what you're going to want to pay attention to is that Taurean Prince is going to come over and he's going to be ready to provide that help, because Brook Lopez is going to kind of soft switch onto Shai while Giannis comes over and tries to get the ball out of his hands, but this is going to leave Isaiah Hartenstein open on the roll, and so Taurean Prince is going to have to slide over and fully commit to providing that help. Now, the problem with this is it's going to leave Kuzma and Dame covering Cason Wallace, Kenrich Williams, and Holmgren on the weak side of the floor. So even though Taurean Prince does effectively shut down Hartenstein's drive, Hartenstein's going to be able to kick it to Kenrich Williams, forcing the X out from Kuzma, and Dame is just a little bit too late with that rotation onto Chet, giving up an open three. On this play, they have Chet in the corner, and he's got Giannis on him. Hartenstein's going to have Lopez on him, and what ends up happening is Hartenstein's going to set this screen, Chet's going to come up to get the pass, and because Hartenstein's able to get into this space in the paint, there's going to be some indecisiveness from Brook Lopez, and with Giannis kind of trying to figure out who he's supposed to be with out of these two defensively, Chet's going to use that indecisiveness to just get an open jumper in the paint. The double big lineup is also really useful whenever Shai and J-Dub aren't on the floor, because it gives them some offense fresh out of the box with Isaiah Hartenstein being able to orchestrate these dribble handoffs. So they set up the zoom action with Wiggins coming off the pin down to get the handoff from Isaiah Hartenstein, and right now the Bucks' biggest defender is Kyle Kuzma, but since Chet Holmgren is on the floor, Kuzma is going to be pulled out of the interior to where he's not really able to be the low man helper. So Aaron Wiggins is going to curl off this screen, Hartenstein's going to roll, and there's really nobody there to tag him, so Hartenstein ends up getting a free look at the rim because of all of this space. Chet's not even going to be involved in the half-court offense on this set. He's going to be camped in the corner, he's got Giannis on him, but this is very intentional. There's going to be some guard-to-guard screening up top with Cason Wallace and Shai to set up this quick fake touch action, just so Shai and Hartenstein can get into a pick and roll, and Lopez is going to be dropping, so Shai's going to be early on this pass to Hartenstein to get it to him on the short roll, and this forces the tag from Giannis off of Chet, meaning that Prince is now going to be the guy who has to X out and make sure that Chet's covered, but this leaves Kenrich Williams open in the dunker spot, which is something OKC loves to do, and so he makes that quick pass. Giannis is there, he's going to be able to cover anything at the rim, but the defense is now heavily in rotation, so Kuzma goes to help on Hartenstein, meaning Lillard's going to be the one to have to X out into the corner, and once again, he's just late on that rotation, giving up an open three. The thing to notice on this possession is Hartenstein and Chet are going to dive into the paint, kind of flattening out Giannis and Lopez, and it pulls Lopez really far away from the on-ball action going on up top, and so Cason Wallace comes over, he sets this ball screen on Kuzma, and Lillard's going to blitz Shai, trying to get the ball out of his hands, so Cason's going to roll, he gets the pass from Shai, and now Lillard is behind the ball. Lopez is now forced to cover Cason Wallace, but that leaves Giannis chasing Chet off of this little exit screen from Hartenstein, and so with Lopez more focused on the ball, Hartenstein's going to be able to get the lob from Wallace for the slam. With all of the offensive orchestration that Hartenstein's going to do in the half court on any possession, just having Chet as an off-ball shooter available on the perimeter for open shots opens up a ton for the Thunder. Dort feeds Hartenstein here, and he's immediately going to execute this dribble handoff for Shai so they can get into a pick and roll. And meanwhile, Chet is over in the weak side corner, and he's going to lift. And since Gordon sees that Shai's got two on the ball with Jokic and Brown on him, leaving Hartenstein open in the short roll, he's going to be helping off of Jalen Williams quite a bit. And that leaves Michael Porter Jr. as the guy responsible for the rotation to the corner. So when Hartenstein makes that pass, the Nuggets start to rotate onto J-Dub, but that leaves Chet open up top for a wide open three. Yes, having Chet available to operate as a floor spacer, as a play finisher is awesome, but where things have gotten really interesting with this double big lineup is when they're running offensive sets that specifically involve the two-man game between Hartenstein and Chet. We've also seen the Thunder break out double big dribble handoffs, with Shea giving the ball to Hartenstein near the top of the key, and this is going to set Chet up to come off the screen. And since both Brook Lopez and Giannis are going to follow him off the screen, with Lopez kind of blitzing, hedging here, because Chet is so tall, for a smaller guard, this is a difficult pass to make. You might not be able to get it over the defense and to the rolling Hartenstein, but since Chet is 7 feet tall, he's able to just drop it over the top right into the bucket, giving Hartenstein an easy look at the rim. The Thunder use a lot of off-ball screens between Hartenstein and Chet to try and generate switches. In this case, they're going to have Hartenstein set what's ironically called a Thunder screen on Jaylen Brown, and this is going to force the switch where Luke Kornet ends up being switched onto Chet near the nail. And from there, this is somewhat of a mismatch where Chet's going to be able to try and take advantage of it, ultimately getting Kornet to bite on the pump fake so he can draw the foul. Now they're going to run an off-ball screen for Chet again, but this time the Celtics aren't going to switch it. Jaylen Brown's going to go under and make sure that he stays with Chet, but this is going to set up the empty side pick and roll between Chet and Hartenstein. And when Chet realizes that Kornet is a little too focused on preventing the drive, Chet's going to make that feed to Hartenstein on the roll, giving him the space that he needs to get to the middle of the floor for that patented floater. Now they run basically the same thing shortly after. This time Chet's going to go under the screen. Kornet isn't going to switch on him. So once this initial action is denied, Chet's going to get it back to Hartenstein, setting up what looks like an empty side dribble handoff, but it's actually going to be a keep action with Hartenstein faking the handoff, driving to the basket, and getting to his spot so he can beat Kornet at the rim. But then we can see again, when they would run this Thunder screen and when Kornet was switching on to Chet, the Thunder were happy to take advantage of this mismatch every single time. Now, seeing all of this happen, Boston did something really interesting. They took Kornet out of this matchup entirely and put Derek White on Isaiah Hartenstein and Jaylen Brown on Chet Holmgren, so they could still switch this action, but there was a specific reason behind why they did this. So they're going to run this Thunder screen, Chet's going to come up, he's going to get the pass, with Derek White forcing Chet all the way to the top of the key. They're going to get into this pick and roll, and Jaylen Brown's actually going to blitz him. Now the reason they do this is because they know Chet's going to try and make that pass over top to Hartenstein, and now they can have Kornet come off of the corner to Hartenstein on the roll, and Jaylen Brown actually does a really good job of disrupting this pass and almost forcing the turnover, but Wiggins is going to recover, and from there, Chet's able to just run into this pick and roll with Wiggins. Jaylen Brown's going to blitz again, allowing Wiggins to make this pass over top to Chet, and now it's Kornet versus Hartenstein and Chet, and it leads to the lob and the slam. There is a ton of stuff to love about the offensive side of the ball with this two-man lineup, because they have stuff that they can do where it just involves these two guys orchestrating the offense with each other, but then you also get all the advantages of Chet being able to just sit on the wing and knock down open shots. But I want to take a look at the defensive side of things, because this is where things get a little bit interesting. Now, before we do that, I want to take a quick second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Pool Genius. When it comes to March Madness, most people fill out their brackets completely wrong, and they probably don't even realize it. If you're anything like me, you might pick your favorite teams to win big matchups. You may go based off of the rankings, or you'll even look at some expert advice to see what insights you can get. But without fail, it seems like my bracket is always busted before the Sweet 16. Now, if you actually want to win your bracket pool this year, then Pool Genius is your secret weapon. It builds you your optimal bracket in under a minute. No research, no stress. I don't really watch a ton of college basketball. I focus mostly on the NBA. But with Pool Genius, that's no problem. You can still build a better bracket than somebody who's watched every single game. Just enter your pool's details and Pool Genius does all of the heavy lifting, creating a fully optimized bracket using the most advanced bracket picking technology on the planet. It's no surprise that 52% of Pool Genius users win a bracket pool every year, with over $2.5 million in reported earnings since 2017. If you're serious about winning, click the link in the description to get the Pool Genius Bracket Optimizer, your unfair advantage this March. Thanks again to Pool Genius for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. So on the defensive side of things, I think the Thunder are still trying to figure out how this lineup is going to work best together. Not that it's been bad, but I don't think they've fully unlocked all of the potential. There's definitely been some promising signs though, specifically when you look at the Thunder's win over the Denver Nuggets. Now, defensively, there's a ton of benefits to having both of these guys on the floor together. For example, here, Jokic is bringing the ball up the floor. He's going to have Hartenstein on him, and Jokic is going to make a really good move to the basket to kind of get Hartenstein behind him, and he kind of just muscles Hartenstein out of the way. But instead of giving up a completely uncontested look at the basket, Chet's going to be right there to be able to slide over and provide that help, and he forces Jokic to miss at the rim. Now, with Hartenstein on Jokic, the Nuggets think that, okay, they don't have their rim protector directly in the paint. Hartenstein's going to have to come over from the weak side in order to help, but you've got Chet right there who's also able to stick around in the paint and be there to disrupt shots at any given moment. Now, the Nuggets are going to get the advantage of Hartenstein being pulled away from the paint during this initial pick and roll action, and it allows Jamal Murray to create some dribble penetration, getting past Hartenstein, but their job isn't finished yet because Chet is going to slide off of Christian Braun and be there to deter Jamal Murray from trying anything at the rim. And OKC's rotations are so good that Shea is fully prepared to close out on MPJ, and Chet has Brown covered on any extra pass. I think a big part of this two-man lineup is going to be figuring out how they want to go about cross-matching. Do they want to have Hartenstein on a guy like Jokic for the entire game, or do they want to have him on a complete non-shooter and allow him to roam? Some of that kind of stuff is where I think they're going to take the next month of the season and kind of figure out how to make things work best. Just to visualize how the Thunder shift around in offensive, defensive, and overall efficiency with these guys on and off, their best offensive combination right now is both of them on the floor together by a significant margin. Their best defensive combination is Chet on the floor without Hartenstein, and their defense still isn't the best with both of them on the floor. But from a net rating perspective, the plus 15.2 net rating with Chet on without Hartenstein is the best combo, but the combo with both of them on the floor really isn't that far behind, and it's still very, very effective. And it's worth pointing out that there's still a good offensive team and a good defensive team, regardless of which combination they have out there. It's not like they become a bad offense with one combo or a bad defense with another. They're still very well rounded. It just is varying levels of elite depending on if they have one or both of them on. And I think that's kind of the point. They have this deadly offensive two-man combo, and it's not like it's the only look that they can throw at opposing teams. This Thunder team has all sorts of weapons that they can deploy depending on which matchup calls for what. And I think that's what's going to make them such a difficult team to beat during the playoffs. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.